Hey everybody, I'm Trevor with Blockchain Daily, and today I'm here with Alex from Verge, and he is the head of marketing.
Yeah, I mean, head of marketing is like how we put it because people like to see Verge as a company or an entity of some kind, but we're really a decentralized group. So like I do content creation, I do marketing. My nickname is XVG Ninja because I just kind of do everything. So everybody that wants to participate with Verge can do so in their own capacity. So there's no role per se in terms of like, this is my job, because it's not. I just contribute marketing ideas and marketing techniques, and I do like market overview. So I kind of know what's going on in the crypto space. And then I'm like, hey, Verge can do this if we have the people who are able to do this, of course, because like I said, it's volunteer. So there's no, the role is like symbolic more.
And can you tell our viewers a little bit about Verge and what the mission is and your selling proposition compared to other cryptocurrencies?
So Verge is the 77 crypto created, if I remember correctly, and it's a fork of Bitcoin. But the idea for Verge was to like have more user security with the data. So that means that we use Tor, for example, built into our chain, so it hides the metadata of people. So you can use your wallet somewhere, and if like you're political whatever, or you're just traveling, or you're just shopping, and you just want to pay people without other people knowing where you're making that transaction from, you can do so with your mobile wallet. Because the idea for us was to have a currency that's digital but functions like cash. So when you go out and take out money from an ATM, because you don't want your wife to see on your transaction record that last night when you got shit-faced, you bought cigarettes. So you take out cash, you can go buy cash at the kiosk next door. That's the kind of idea that Verge is for. It's the everyday privacy needs that people have, not like, the idea is not to like, go through and be like whatever. It's really just to give people that leeway to choose who sees what they do. So everything's on a public blockchain. It's just, like Bitcoin, we have the block explorer. You can see which transactions are done and everything. It's an open ledger, but we allow people to protect their metadata.
Okay, cool. So how would you say your chain competes with other privacy coins like Monero or Zcash?
Like I said, these are more like they're target specific for privacy, like people who need anonymity, really. Like these are transactions you can't follow. These are made for people who want to be invisible. That's not what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to be like cash that you use online. So we're not trying to compete with them. There's a lot of space for these things because people need different levels of anonymity. People need different levels of security. That's not what we're aiming for. We have fees of 0.2 per transaction when you're using our wallet directly, and the transactions are settled, like the block time is 16 seconds. So we're fast, we're private to an extent. We're made for, like the old slogan was a currency based for built for everyday use. So like that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to say, hey, use us versus this. Nah, everybody has different needs. And like in the crypto space, I think like in the early days, it was very tribal, like people were like, oh, this is the coin that's going to replace Bitcoin or whatever. It's like, that's not the point. The point is using technology like DEXs or atomic swaps. We should be able to use the currency we want for the purpose that we want. It's not just about decentralizing the economics of life. It's also about decentralizing where value is for the purpose of said value, right? So for me, sending you money, let's say, because you say, okay, send me $10 because XYZ, I don't need the same privacy as someone who's like, I'm in a war zone and I want to buy a gun because I don't want people to know what I'm buying. Like it's a completely different use case.
Right. Okay. Is your chain smart contract compliant, or is it just a value
we don't
chain?
have smart contracts on the chain right now. It's basically it's just like UTXO transaction based coins. That's it. It is something we want to do. It's something that's being worked on. I can't tell you when it's going to be released because I do not know. But yeah, Verge is proof of work. So we're a classic chain in the sense of like, classic chains. So yeah.
Okay, so it's a proof of work chain, so you can mine it.
Yeah, there's 5 algorithms. So I think only Digibyte is the only currency right now that has more than like one type of like proof of work algorithm. So we have 5 different ones. So we allow people to mine it. differently. So yeah, that was the idea, to give more options for everybody to participate in the ecosystem.
Okay. And so since it is proof of work, and I'm sure you're familiar with the regulatory actions that have been taken against other cryptocurrencies that are not proof of work, that are particularly proof of stake coins. So do you think that Verge has an advantage there as being proof of work?
Not only do we have an advantage against them from being proof of work versus proof of stake, but we never had an ICO. We don't raise funds through transactional means like other projects. There's no, like, Verge isn't funded. At the beginning, I mentioned that we were like volunteer driven. That's 100% the case. And on top of this, we had a Howey test done to see that we weren't a security according to the SEC regulations. And on top of this, we are, I think we're the eighth coin or token that is now ISO 222 compliant, which means that banks could use our blockchain alongside fiat. And we're the only one, as far as I'm concerned, in the list of those 8 like chains that actually have that are actually volunteer driven, no ICO, no funding, no revenue mechanism. So we're the only open source community that has this ISO compliance. So it allows banks, for example, that they want to say, hey, we want to send transactions, they can use us as a channel. So like I said, we have different optional like privacy means for people's data. Well, now we have this as well for banks. So it's really, we're a step ahead in terms of like adoption for regulatory framework. Although, like you mentioned, we're not smart contract compliant, so it makes it a bit harder for people to do us and to use us in like DeFi use case. So that's a little bit like my hope is that like we can start building bridges so people can wrap Verge and then like unwrap Verge. So for example, they can go on Uniswap or Pancake, so that people can use us in places where centralized markets don't offer Verge.
You did mention smart contracts is something that you're working on. Is there any other features that you know of that you're working on right now?
No, not right now. I think, like I said, the ISO compliancy was the last thing we released. That was like last Monday, I believe. Not this Monday, but the one before. And I mean, yeah, it was last Monday. I wrote the press release. But yeah, that's the latest thing in terms of development. I know smart contracts is something we're working on as well. But like I said, it's volunteer driven. So I can't really say when, I can't really say who or what, because, you know, people come and go. That's the whole point. Like, if you can contribute and you want to contribute, we're always inviting people, and like we'll back you, and you want to have the recognition, we'll give it to you. That's how we work. It's the model of, you know, volunteers.
So there's no like Verge Foundation or any sort of development lab?
We have an organization like structure just so we can be on like the Google Play Store and like iOS store. But like, this is somebody who's doing that out of like, you know, he wants to help the project. This is how he's helping the project. But there's no, like I said, there's no entity that's like, you know, anybody can come into our Discord and say, hey, I have an idea. Actually, a lot of people come in our Discord and then like, hey, you guys should do this. And I'm like, okay, do you know how to do it? We'll help you, but you got to drive the thing. That's how it works. So we're on, like, if you look at DAOs on a spectrum with mechanisms in place or whatever, we're on the DAO spectrum of it's just a bunch of people doing things semi-separately from each other. Not everybody talks to each other. Not everybody, they just kind of do stuff. And as long as it respects the ethos of being open source, being for the like adoption of the chain, then you can do it. Not everybody agrees with like the positions of other people, but it doesn't matter. We just want to build a currency that can be used internationally, and that's what we're doing.
So speaking of DAOs, is there like a voting mechanism within Verge, or it's just more everyone's kind of just deciding what they want to do?
Again, it's exactly that. It's what do you want to do? What are your skills? And can you do it? And what do you need from the rest of the community? And we'll help. Like if somebody says, hey, I did XYZ, I want a press release, this is going to help Verge like this, then it's like, all right, cool, I'll do it. And that's pretty much how we work. Like I said, the code is open on GitHub, so anybody can go and say, hey, I want to submit this. And then there are some devs who will like, you know, look at the quality before merging, but it's pretty much like it's made so that like people can participate and be self-reliant. It's like that, you know that quote from John F. Kennedy, don't ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. That's pretty much the mentality behind Verge. So whenever somebody on the Facebook page messaged us and was like, oh, what are you guys doing for XYZ? And I'm like, well, like, we're doing that, but what are you doing? Like, you tell me you're holding Verge, but like, I've never seen you pop up before. I've never seen you participate. Are you like, what are you doing? Like, personally, what's your role? Because buying Verge doesn't make me richer. I don't really care. If you buy Verge, I'm not getting paid for it. If you're not buying Verge, I don't really care either. Like, I mean, it's a currency meant to be used. We tell people buy Verge to spend Verge, and we mean it. Like, there's no financial incentive for Verge. Like, the stuff I actually have, okay, this shirt was given to me, but like this hat I paid for using Brave rewards. Like, like, it's like I have to pay out of pocket, and that's actually how Verge works. Like the servers are paid by like people paying out of pocket for it, not so much as like, we're making money and saying, okay, we have a budget. We don't have a budget. We have to, like, what do we want to contribute for?
Okay, cool. So it's kind of like the traditional, if a change is made to the protocol, the nodes will have to agree to that change, or
the miners have to agree to it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Actually, cool story of this. Actually, like the consensus stuff. The chain was like attacked in 2019, I believe, and basically, the miners got together and they agreed on a snapshot to use, and then we used that snapshot. Like, it was the community who was like, hey, like, the chains got attacked, but the community's like, nah, let's roll back. And like, it was the consensus of the miners saying, hey, yeah, we want to roll back the chain to before this attack. And then like the fix was pushed, and then that, like, it was the community that got together and say, hey, let's do something about it. So it's really nice to see that. Like, it took 2 days for this to like transpire, but it was nice to see people getting organized, saying, hey, this is our chain, this is what we do, and like, let's work together to fix it. Like, it's a really strong community, and that's what made Verge, like, I mean, we're what, like 2014, we're almost 10 years old now. Like, it's October 2014 when it launched. So yeah, I think it's like, yeah, it'll be 10 years next year. So it's really nice to see that, like, even though we're not exciting, even though it's not the hot token or the hot whatever meme coin or whatever it is going on in the market, because there's lots of crazy stuff going on, like, the chain's still existing and people are still like, hey, how can I help? And that's really the message that I'm trying to drive across here. I hope I'm doing a good job. It's like, hey, if you want to use Verge outside of like the traditional coin environment, like, come and help.
The attack that you said in 2019, was this like a 51% attack, or was it some other sort of?
It was if I remember, I wrote the explainer of it, but I have to brush up on it. It was like, there was a time exploit for one of the mining algorithms, so they were able to like shadow mine and then basically just show up and say, hey, all of your blocks are late, and then they took over from there. And then the chain, like, it's 51%, but only on one mining thing. And then basically they were able to inject all these empty blocks and say, hey, now we're mining stuff. And then then the chain got like taken over, but then we had snapshots in place, so that's how we were able to fix it. So
cool. So we'll go touch on scalability a little bit. How would you say Verge's scalability is? Is it, to what level of, like, say, transactions per second could it scale to?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it was something like 20,000 per second or something like this. Let me just check real quick. We had like these like nice graphics done on Twitter. Yeah. So maximum transaction is 100 transactions per second according to Simple Swap, but yeah, I need to figure out where those slides. I mean, they're definitely somewhere on the Twitter account, but yeah, it's a really fast coin. Like I said, our block time is 16 every 16 seconds. So yeah, if you're doing 100 transactions per second at 16, it's 160 transactions per block. And the fees is like I said, the fees are dynamic, but they're almost always flat at 0.2. It can change if somebody has something like, a custom thing loaded into the block. But generally speaking, for transactions, it's really cheap.
Cool.
It's part of the name, Verge currency.
Yeah, 16 seconds per block is very fast for proof of work. Most take at least several minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you guys have any plans for any sort of marketing strategies in the near future, like campaigns or events or collaborations we should look forward to?
I mean, it's always what people want to do. For example, last year, there was Tummy from Unstoppable Domain that reached out to me on Telegram, and he's like, "Hey, I'd like to like do something between Unstoppable Domain and Verge," and I wasn't really sure if like that was real because let's face it, like we get scam messages on Telegram and LinkedIn like almost every day, right? So I was like, "Yo, push something on GitHub, and then we can talk about it." And then they actually pushed something on GitHub. They're like, yeah, we integrated Verge and Unstoppable Domain. Can we now like do a press release? Can we do something so people can like, get a Unstoppable Domain address and have some Verge on it? And I was like, yo, wait, for real? This is actually legit. So yeah, we did that. But like I said, man, it's a community project. So I go out, like, I mean, I work in this space. And if I talk to different companies, I talk to different people. I'm like, hey, if you guys can list us as a payment method, we can advertise you, but it's not like it has to be done by people. And I mean, we got listed with MindGeek back in 2018. I remember when we crashed Twitter and people were like, oh, it's Pornhub, but it was MindGeek. It was because the community was going out of their way to spam email like MindGeek saying, hey, I want to pay for porn using XVG. And like a lot of people gave us flack for this, but it was like, it wasn't just for like subscriptions. It was also that like MindGeek was using Verge as a payment method. So if you were working, like you were a content creator, right, for Pornhub or for any MindGeek domain, you could ask to get paid in crypto using Verge. And then like that, it goes straight to your wallet. And then you could use any kind of swap system to cash out. So it's faster than like, waiting for a check, going to the bank, waiting for the bank to clear the check, especially in countries that like, have bank regulations or, oh, we don't want like sex workers or whatever to use this because we have some kind of moral code that tells us this is bad. Like you're a bank, you have no moral code to begin with. And B, like money is money. Like it's not the job of the bank to judge where the money comes from. It's the job of your government. So like besides that, like having Verge as a payment option, you could actually at the time, I haven't checked in a while, but you could also pay for advertisement through Traffic Junkie using Verge. So you were able to actually use like a completely decentralized currency to pay for stuff because again, we're not a security. Like we were designed as a currency for the internet age. So yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I always tell people. I'm like, hey, you have a small company, you do something cool, use something like Now Payments and Verge to like get paid in Verge. If you want to convert it to like a stable coin or you want to convert it to cash because it makes sense for your bottom line, do so. But we're a decentralized currency. We're alongside the euro, we're alongside USD, except we're decentralized. We don't belong to a country. Like I'm Canadian living in Germany. Some people are in the US, some people are in the Netherlands, some people are, like all over the place. That's what decentralized is. The idea behind it is to not have one point of failure.
Right. Could you tell us a little bit more about, you said unstoppable domains, right? Could you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, Unstoppable Domains is actually a pretty cool company. So, when you buy like, Blockchain Daily, you bought the domain name, blockchaindaily.whatever, like .com. I don't have the tab open right now, but, you buy your domain name. That's a Web2 domain. So Unstoppable Domain, what they do is they basically allow you to own a domain. It's actually on my Twitter. It's like xvgninja.wallet, I think. And it's like basically anybody can use that to send me anything that's listed on Unstoppable Domain so I can get paid using that that address, and you can own that. It's yours, and then you associate it to your wallet. So basically you own your like Web3 chain address without having the like BT whatever 26 alphanumeric, with like really much easier. So I think it's a really cool company in the aspect that it shows people what can be done with crypto, and that like we can move away from this like having long addresses, having long complicated systems in place to just say, hey, I can send something to a username and that system will figure it out. Like that's much easier and much more efficient than are you sending me USDT on Tron, USDT on ERC20,
So that particular Unstoppable Domain project allows for multiple cryptocurrencies, including Verge, to be sent to that .wallet address.
Exactly. It's a pretty big company, Unstoppable Domains. You guys should check it out. I mean, we just had a meetup in Berlin. There was the Web3 Berlin that just happened, where we got to talk to a bunch of different projects, a bunch of cool developers. But yeah, besides that, If are we going to be listed on some projects? Who knows? We'll have to see how that plays out. But one thing we learned with Verge is since we're a currency, we try to not do an announcement before an announcement. It's happened in the past that previous volunteers were maybe too enthusiastic about things. And like when the price of a currency goes up, it's fun for people who are holding it, but it's also like damaging for people who are, using it. So as a currency, it's our responsibility to make sure that we actually just announce it after something is there so that there's no there's no manipulation, because we want people to use Verge as a currency, not as a, hey, I'm going to get rich quick lottery winner. I know this goes against the ethos of like 99.9% of the crypto space. They're just looking at the new hot thing to make a killing. But it's my opinion is that we haven't really had an actual bull market since 2017. And what we see is just like the new pump for the newest technology. It's not a real bull market. It's really just, hey, what's new and hot, and how are people getting rich? And then the ones who do have money and who are there before the others just dump on the later buyers. So I'm my personal thing is, let's not make that happen with Verge again. As I said, I think we've been here for close to 10 years. So it's important for us to be mature about how we approach things. So yeah, everything is pretty much, this happened, and that's what it allows you to do after it happens, so that there's no speculative trading going on.
Could you give us a list of what the major vendors are that accept Verge, since it's supposed to be more like a currency rather than a speculative investment?
Yeah, of course. So you can go on vergecurrency.com/vendors, and you can see all the vendors that accept directly Verge. But then on top of that, we're also accepted on Binance Pay. So that means that all the stores that accept Binance Pay can use us. Then we have Trivela.com. So it's a really popular booking service. So basically Trivela.com also allows for Verge. Then we have Unstoppable Domains I mentioned earlier. We have Hypersphere. We have Mekon Cash that allows people to use Verge as a way to withdraw cash in Korea. Then after that, there's clothingirc.com. We have Now Nodes. We have a bunch of partners like this, and then like I said, there's over 300 different merchants that allow Verge directly, and then on top of that, we have, like I said, Binance Pay. So any merchant that uses Binance Pay, we're also on Coin Payments, so people can use Verge on Coin Payments. So that's a bit harder, because unless they come up and tell us, hey, can we be listed on your website directly, we don't know how many people accept Verge. Anybody that has Coin Payments can accept Verge, because Coin Payments allows you to make a wallet for anything. We also use Now Payments. So if anybody has Now Payments and they have they want to receive Bitcoin, but they allow Verge as well, it's hard to track. So I always tell merchants, I'm like, hey, if you want to accept Verge and you want to say, hey, Verge is accepted here, and let us know. We're going to put you on our website, and you want to make commercials to remind people that you accept Verge, let us know. Join the Facebook group, go on the Facebook page, make your advertisements, and make people know that you accept Verge. Because like I said, we're a currency, but you have to, it's self-volunteer. So you're not just accepting Verge, you're also being part of the community. So you have to, we're not asking you to pay for advertisement, we're just, hey, remind people that this exists. So.
All right, cool. And I guess we'll touch on one more topic, since you spoke a little bit about regulations at the event recently.
Yeah.
You want to touch on that a little bit more?
Well, basically, my opinion is that crypto is basically building in parallel, if this then that version of the banking services. That's basically what we're doing at this point in time. The space is basically saying, hey, by using DeFi, we can decentralize finances. And what that does is we're removing so many middlemen from the banking equation, right? So when you call your bank and you're like, yo, I want to put, I don't know, $10,000 into a savings account that has yield, right? Well, then they're going to go and they're going to move it there. And then some other guy's going to move it into different boxes that are actually different funds. And then they're going to tell you you're going to get XYZ yield over time, right? That's what they're doing. It's there's three people in that theoretical thing. I used to work for a bank, so I kind of have an idea how it works. And basically what you're doing with DeFi now is saying, hey, look, you can put your money directly into into a liquidity pool or into a yield farm or into whatever. So it allows people to do these transactions, swap their services on dexes or whatever. We're just reinventing what already exists. The problem is crypto still has this like 3 guys in the basement building Facebook or Twitter approach. So they somebody copy pastes the code off a previous version of Uniswap and then slaps a new name to it, makes it on a new chain, and then just does it like this without double checking for vulnerabilities. So at the end of the day, you just pop out and you create a DEX and then somebody gets liquidated. Or there's some, I'm not going to name anybody, but there's some assholes who launch a token and then say, hey, we're going to build this with this token. And then they just rug pull on their community. Like this happened. The last NFT run, this just happened every day, I think. Like every day there is a new project rug pulling. And it's like I'm not saying we should over-regulate and have like I live in Germany, right? You want to like open a restaurant, you need to do a license to wash your hands. I'm not saying over-regulate it so that like it kills the industry. I'm saying regulate it enough so that like, if you want to launch a token, let's say, or you want to launch a project, that like it has to be locked into a smart contract that says, okay, we're going to allow you to withdraw X amount of liquidity per like period of time or per objectives done, so that like, your investors are safe. Regulated in the sense that like, hey, you want to launch a like DeFi, like, a launch pad, is it protected for known vulnerabilities? The space is regulating itself to a certain extent. Like we saw a lot of people helping each other, or there's the hacker last year or the year before? Now it's kind of hard to tell the years because of post-COVID to COVID just felt like one long year, but it was like 2.5 years.
I think blends together.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one long year, and it was like they basically took out a bunch of money and then they're like, okay, we're going to return it, but fix that solution, right? So we're seeing the space kind of regulate itself, but not enough. When you find out that like FTX is like, yo, we're trying to work with regulators, blah, 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 but they basically work with like Google Sheets in a basement on a laptop, and like they're over leveraging themselves. Like, I mean, that tells me 2 things. Like centralized exchange are dangerous because they're doing the same thing as banks are doing. But let's be honest, banks have they have hundreds of years of knowing how to game the system so that they can bet against you. Like I'm pretty sure that banks are playing look, BlackRock yesterday. So banks are basically saying, okay, we can basically control the market. So we're gonna we're gonna say Bitcoin is gonna go up to 50K, and then we're gonna have trader accounts go and buy Bitcoin to raise the price to 50K, and we're gonna make a killing in the regulated market by playing in the unregulated market. So they have a step ahead of us, and what we're saying is, hey, like we should have the kind of regulations that's only there to protect the like B2C person from getting ripped by like people like Sam Backman or the new tokens that are going around on crypto Twitter. I'm sure you guys are all very familiar about some crypto influencers just dumping on their community. So I mean, this happens all the time. So that's the kind of regulation I'd like to see. Maybe I'm idealistic and I'm too naive thinking that like this can happen, because some people like to think that like the banks are out to get us. But I think what the banks are doing right now is they're just clearing house so that when the like DeFi protocols are being implemented by banks so that it's transparent within the banking framework, they've already moved their money in places, in the new ways, in the new shadows. Because there's always going to be Deutsche Bank, and there's always going to be HSBC doing weird shit, banking with like the Taliban or whatever it is that these banks get like, they get sued every few years for. They're just going to find new ways to do it. And crypto is just a new avenue for this. So I don't really think, like I said, I mentioned that it's important to have regulation to a certain extent for the security of users, for the security of the project. But at the same time, like we don't want to be over-regulated. It's very important to find that sweet spot of how to regulate XYZ. I think the SEC approach was literally, I couldn't work for Binance, so I'm going to try to like, kill tokens and kill Binance. That's pretty much what it sounds like to me. It's like a petty game of like, we can't control it, so kill it. But that's an American problem. And crypto is actually an American invention to an American problem that the rest of the world is like, okay, cool, this is useful. But you have to remember that even though the US or the US dollar is king for now, the idea of crypto is to decentralize value, not just currency. It's to allow people, like I said earlier in the video, to circle back to that, it's to allow people to put the value on the things that they want and not just, like you're not centralizing value in the US dollar anymore or the euro or the Chinese yen or whatever. You're decentralizing value to say, hey, I want to buy XYZ and XYZ is equal to my time, and my time is worth a range of different things, right? It's not, time is worth money, but money can be gold, it can be a chicken, it can be whatever you're trading for. Money just simplified the equation, and crypto is kind of like decentralizing money into value, but it's value on chain. So, yeah.
Going back to banks and the ISO 222 compliance, could you touch on that a little bit more too?
It's basically a way for banks to know where the transactions are coming from and where they're made, so that like they know who's sending it to who. So, as opposed as if you're using Thor with our iOS or Android wallet and you're just trying to like hide your metadata, the banks want to know what's going on between their own networks so they can use this. So that's how it's basically a protocol for banks to know where the money was sent, where it's going, so that banks can channel within each other. It wasn't actually designed for crypto. It's just crypto was like, hey, yeah, we want to be taken seriously by banks. So let's adopt a protocol on the chain that can be used by the banks. And that's how you work. You don't reinvent the wheel. You work with what exists and you change it slowly but surely.
And the stealth transactions on Verge don't make it non-compliant?
So the stealth transaction on Verge, it's great that you mentioned this, because a lot of people think that our stealth transactions is basically something like Monero, right? It doesn't exist. You don't see it. Like I said earlier, we're a public chain. Every transaction is on the ledger. What it does is it obfuscates the sender and the receiver. So you see the transaction on the chain, but you just don't know who it was sent to where. And the only way to do this, the only way for it to like work is if you're using a Qt wallet on your computer. So if you have a Verge node on your computer, like if you have a full wallet and not a light wallet, then you can do this to someone else, but it's a one-time use address basically. And once that's done, that's it. But here's the thing that's like cool. Banks could actually use this in a actual like KYC environment. It's not something that like I can't send a stealth transaction to an exchange unless they allow it. But they could technically say, okay, you want to send a stealth transaction to us because you're, a value customer, like VIP or something. You can then KYC that person and say, hey, we allow this to happen. Like this is something that's compliant in terms of regulations because it's still public on the chain. Now, most people don't understand how it works. And then when you say the term stealth, then they're like, okay, it's like anonymity. And then we want to delist because anonymity goes against compliance. But the compliance from countries is, hey, we want to be able to track the transactions from which wallet. So yeah, maybe somebody wants to send a transaction between each other from a private perspective, they can, but most transactions on Verge are literally, they're just using Tor to hide where they're doing the transactions, but all the transactions are public. So like I said, that's why we like to use the term security now for user data, because not everybody needs to know where you are at an exact given time, which is what you do when you use your credit card. Technically, you're just telling the bank, hey, I'm here at this exact moment. So, I mean, look, I work for a bank. I can tell you that like there's not much privacy going on when you call a bank center. That employee can see the last 3 months of your credit card statement, the last year or so of like your banking statements. They can see pretty much everything you do. So it's very easy to profile someone as a serial cheater, as a gambler, as a drug addict, based off the transactions they do. And like that's why I say it's privacy, but it's user security in a sense that like, hey, you can choose who knows what your wallet address is.
It's able to have those stealth transactions and remain compliant. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Like the exchanges should be like looking at us and being like, hey, how can we work with this for us to be able, like, every time Binance does something, there's like some random ass Twitter account that's like, oh, they're trying to like dump on this when they're just moving funds between countries or something, and like this is the kind of thing that they could do, move funds between your own company without like anyone else knowing except you and the recipient. Okay, yeah, we're moving funds XYZ, we're going to use Verge, and then we're going to swap Verge into whatever else we want, because that's the point of Verge. It's a currency, not like it's not there to hedge your bet against the collapse of the dollar or whatever it is that like some segments of crypto thinks that crypto is for. We're a currency. That's, again, I'll keep repeating this so people get it, but they still don't. It's been what, 5 years I'm in the Verge team, and people still ask me like, oh, how am I gonna make money off of this? I don't make money off of Verge, bro. I make money off of working. So you want to work, like you want to volunteer your skills, you have a store, you want to accept Verge, do that. But like, yeah.
Could you tell us, where people can get in contact with the Verge community? What's the best channels to use?
Yeah, I'll tell you which ones not to use. Don't use Facebook to send us a message when you have wallet problems. Like, go on our website, find our Discord, find our Telegram, shoot us a message through there, because like Facebook, like I said, we're all volunteers. So once in a while, people will log into Facebook and answer. And then like some people, oh, they're scammers. Like I got a message a few days ago from some person who was really irate because she didn't know how the wallet worked. Right. And it's like, well, I'm sorry that you don't know how the wallet works, and then waited 4 months for an answer. And I'm like, the website is on the like Facebook page. You can actually click on the website, and then there's like, our channels, join us, blah, 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 community. Like, you have issues, join the community, talk to someone. There's a lot of people in the community that have helped constantly. Like, we used to have a dedicated channel with volunteers just for like wallet support, because at one point there's like 30,000 users in the main channel on Telegram. So it was a bit hectic to try to help people. And like, remember that we're all volunteers. That's also the thing. We're not there to make money off of you. We don't want your private keys. We don't want your money. We just want to explain to you how it works, because yeah, it's crypto. There's a learning curve to it, unfortunately. So yeah, join us on Discord, join us on Telegram, join us on Twitter, Facebook too. But remember that like, if you need immediate help, don't expect us to be a company with like somebody 24/7 chilling by Facebook being like, oh yeah, that's all I have to do. Like, I have a job, I have a life, I have friends and family, like there's other things I want to do in my life than spend my time trying to figure out why you forgot your password. It's like
Right.
So
right.
yeah.
So the Telegram, Discord are your main channels?
Yeah. Twitter
Okay.
too. The Twitter community is really active. So the main handle is not always active, but it's also riskier. Like, there's so many scams on Twitter that like, that's why I mentioned go to our website to find the channels. It's the same thing where we used to do when I worked in the bank. We used to say, hey, when we send you an email, we'll never have a link to click, never have an email address for you to answer. It always refer to go to our website and then find the proper channels of communication, look at the back of your card, find the phone number for the like support, because there's so many scams. You have to be really protective. And the best way to do that is to, unfortunately, do your own research. I think this is really old in crypto, but it's never been so true.
Right. And what's the website address?
Vergecurrency.com.
Vergecurrency.com. Okay, great. Well, we appreciate you coming on here to talk to us today and give us some information about Verge and your thoughts on regulations and everything else.
Oh, you're very welcome, man. It was a pleasure to join. If you guys want me to come back on, I'd be glad to. Like I said, Verge is a like community project. So if Blockchain Daily wants to say, hey, we're partners with Verge and we accept payments in Verge, or however you do your business model, this is something you guys can do as well. And like, you want to advertise and say, hey, this is brought to you by Verge or whatever, use it as a payment. We can retweet, we can help you guys, advertise you guys as well, right? So like I said, it's a community project. We got to help hands. We're not out to like displace a project. We're not out to say, hey, like we're better than you or not better than you. Everybody has a different user case. Our market segment is really just swap Verge for whatever it is you're buying or selling. That's what we want people to do. We want them to use it as a currency.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely be in touch with you, and appreciate you coming on.